Thank you for joining us. I'm David Horrigan, eDiscovery Counsel and Legal Content Director at K-Cura, and it's my real honor and pleasure to be here with not only one of the preeminent thought leaders in eDiscovery, but a fellow graduate of the University of Florida Levin College of Law. I'm here with Bill Hamilton, who is the Executive Director of the eDiscovery Law Project at the University of Florida. And I like to think it wasn't that long ago that I went to law school here, but when I did, it was in the 90s, and eDiscovery was perhaps a 10-minute conversation one day in civil procedure. Bill has worked with a lot of the Gator Nation and people all over the world to build this program. Bill, it's a real honor, and I've got two questions to start off with you. First of all, how did you get involved in eDiscovery?
Well, thanks, David, and thank you for being here for our conference. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I got involved in eDiscovery back in my career as a litigator. I was back practicing with Holland and Knight in Miami, and we were fortunate enough to have some very large cases for telecommunications companies, and it involved going through an immense amount of data. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me that this information was basically accessible, not in paper, but electronically, and we had to develop various techniques to analyze it and essentially prove a negative. In other words, how do you go through 10 million customer service records to prove that something wasn't happening? We have to do statistical sampling and things like that to persuade the opposition that your methodology is right. So what I found is that it was emerging in my practice more and more. And I found that to be a good litigator, to be a litigator that was going to prevail and get the best possible result for your client, you had to know electronic discovery. There's just no way about it. And it was getting larger and larger. Sure. And then the other thing that was very nice is the more I relied on electronics, the more I learned about it, the more successful I became
well,
as a lawyer.
You're a lawyer, and I know you've also got a graduate degree in philosophy. Did you have any computer training or IT training before you got involved?
Absolutely none. Zero.
You are going to be an inspirational story to a lot of our fellow Luddite lawyers who really fear this stuff. So here's a guy who really is one of the top thought leaders in the nation and internationally on this, and no tech training. Bill can do it, I can do it, you can do it. Here at the eDiscovery program at the University of Florida, Bill, you were a partner at Quarles & Brady, a very well-respected firm for a long time, and now you're full-time on the faculty at Florida. Yeah. What went into developing this program that I would not recognize from what I had in law school?
Well, it was interesting. What we did at the law firm back in the mid-2000s is we started realizing that not only those of us that were kind of doing cases that seemed to have eDiscovery issues needed to know it, but the litigators in the firm need to know it. Sure. So we put together a program, myself and a couple other attorneys in the firm, and basically taught it to the other litigators during a Friday 11 to 1 o'clock session, serving lunch, and we did it for 10 weeks. Sure. So when we finished that, it was very successful and well received, and I think made an impact for the firm's clients. I was saying to myself, what are law students doing? They're going to come out and get slaughtered out in the world. Right. I mean, this is, and I really viewed it, and I still do, as a survival skill. Yeah. So I approached the dean, that was George Dawson at the time, back 2007 or so, and said, George, we need to do this at the University of Florida. He recognized the importance of it, so we started teaching a regular class every semester on eDiscovery. And that's continued since 2007. Every semester we've offered it. Now we have courses not only in electronic discovery, law, and analysis, but we have data courses that we offer where students who want to dig more into data analysis using various kinds of tools, such as relativity, such as iConnect, such as Nuix, which are all great eDiscovery tools. So they can really get a feel for what it means to handle data, because that's what we have to do now as attorneys. And then this conference has just grown year after year after year, because word has gotten out that what we need is to be in that space between the law and data. We need, and data and technology. We need to be in that middle space where people are learning both. And that's what this conference is all about, is that practical application between the law and between the technologists.
Now, do you see a generational gap? Are you finding it's easier that younger generations get the tech more than, say, your partners back at the firm?
No. What I'm finding is they understand the importance of data more. So when I go into my classes and I say to the students, let's do a little data audit of where your information's located, And I can pretty quickly demonstrate that if I can issue them a subpoena, I can quickly tell them what they were doing at every moment during the day.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden it's, wow, yeah, this data is available because they're all using Facebook, they're all using Twitter, email, all this data that's surrounding them, they're much more keenly aware of it than attorneys were years ago.
You know, when I went to school here, you could take, if you were a law student, you could take courses outside the law school and sometimes vice versa. In your data courses, are there students from outside the law school who are interested in this taking the class as well?
Yeah, we're developing a very close relationship with the computer science department, and I actually have students from the computer science department, graduate students and undergraduates, auditing the law school course.
Great.
Yeah, so it's a nice synergy.
Sure.
And they can help me out on the really tough technical questions.
Excellent.
And they're also fascinated by how data is being used in concrete practical situations, because they're not used to litigation and dispute resolution and the like. So all of a sudden, what they're doing over in their department becomes very real in terms of the impact it's having on our societal values.
Sure. You know, at KCURA, we often put together panels of judges, and you have got an impressive panel of Florida judges talking this afternoon. What are you going to have them discuss? And obviously e-discovery, but any specific hot button issues the judges are going to touch on today?
Well, you know, who am I to dictate what a hot issue is for a judge to discuss? But I think from my preliminary indications, they're all fascinated by the prospect of proportionality.
Sure.
What they're very interested in is, I want attorneys to be able to tell me what's important, why they need it, and how much cost it's going to take to get to it compared to the value of the case. So what I'm finding is they're very interested in, one, proportionality, and two, not merely lawyers coming in the way some of us have in the past and just basically giving boilerplate expressions, but talking real specifics and real metrics on the data that's got to be analyzed so the judges can make an informed decision. So I think what they're going to talk about really indirectly is attorney competence.
Yeah.
And what they want to see in front of counsel that are coming before them.
It was great that you kicked off the conference with the Alachua County Attorney mentioning that Florida may have this technical requirement coming soon as well.
Yeah.
And the Florida Bar retweeted my tweet on that, and they said, oh, yes, we are, just waiting for approval. And that puts Florida in line with now going on about almost 20 states who have this requirement. So you're doing good work here, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a
And
pleasure.
thank you for having us all. Bill Hamilton, Executive Director of the UF Law e-Discovery Project. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, David.